Tom DeWeese is one of the nation's leading advocates of individual liberty, free enterprise, private property rights, personal privacy, back to basics education, and American sovereignty and independence. A resident of Virginia since 1982, Tom is a native of Ohio. He's been a candidate for the Ohio legislature, served as editor of 2 newspapers, and has owned several businesses. In 1989, Tom led the only privately funded election observation team to the Panamanian elections, where he learned firsthand how corrupt dictators can steal an election. In 2006, he was invited to Cambridge University to debate the issue of the United Nations before the Cambridge Union, a 200-year-old debating society. Today, he serves as founder and president of the American Policy Center and is the author of 3 books. He was one of the first to voice concern over the radical agenda of the environmental movement and to question its motives. For over 50 years, Tom has been a businessman, grassroots activist, writer, and publisher. As such, he has always advocated a firm belief in man's need to keep moving forward while protecting our constitutionally guaranteed rights. Please welcome Tom DeWeese.
Let's see, is the microphone working? Yeah. Before I get started, I wanted to share a story with you. Yesterday, as I was driving from Virginia to get into Ohio, and I was on Interstate 70, and I don't know if you've driven around Zanesville lately, but the Interstate 70 is just one big mess, and I had to take a detour off to a little country road. As I'm driving down that country road, I look over to the side. I'm going about 35 miles an hour. Right beside me is running this 3-legged chicken. Is running along there. And I looked at that and I thought, I wonder, I sped up to about 45. He stayed right there with me. I got up to 60 miles an hour and that chicken was still in front of me. All of a sudden he turned down a little driveway for a farm driveway and ran up there. And I thought, I want to know something about this chicken. So I stopped, I turned, I went down the driveway, and there stood a guy who's obviously the farmer there. And I said, did you see a 3-legged chicken come through here? He says, yeah, I'll breed them. I said, why would you breed the 3-legged chickens? And he said, well, me and my wife and my son, we all like drumsticks, and I didn't see any reason to stand and fight over them, so I made a 3-legged chicken. I said, well, how do they taste? And he said, I don't know. We've never been able to catch one yet. I thank Ronald Reagan for that. I'm going to talk to you tonight about something that is exploding across this country. The artificial intelligence or AI debate is raging everywhere in this country. There are those who believe that it's the greatest thing to ever happen to human society. More. This is what we hear. Life is going to be so much easier. It will be much more informed, and all of life's problems will have a solution right at our fingertips. But some of us believe that that we have to have caution. It must be enforced, as this unknown entity may represent the greatest threat for individual freedom ever conceived. First, let's briefly take a look at what artificial intelligence is. In short, AI is a computer system designed to perform tasks that typically require human intelligence. Promoters say it will all lead to making our lives easier and more efficient. That's the big key, efficient, including everything from managing your daily calendar to driving your car. Convenience is the main selling point for this. We're just going to make your life easier in every way. However, new technology has given AI the ability to go much further than that. AI has now evolved into sophisticated systems capable of learning and adjusting on their own. This leads to a disturbing question, which happens, what happens when your computer begins to think for itself? is it then a tool or an individual entity that deserves its own rights? Believe it or not, that question has become a debate in intellectual society. The question of AI rights is actually being seriously discussed, and to ensure that AI systems are not exploited, that they have their own rights. So you let them think for themselves. Believe that? When I saw that, that's when I said, it's time to pull the plug. This is nuts. It must be understood that artificial intelligence is written by humans who can and do inject their own knowledge, their own political agendas into those computer programs and into that data that will influence the perspective. That fact will influence the direction it takes to give advice in what it calls facts. People are saying, oh, just get on the computer and look it up and it'll give you all the information. Based on what? That's what we have to be aware of. There's no question that some major parts of this new technology can provide amazing enhancements to our lives. Certainly it can enhance research, bringing together major related details. It's out there. Digital AI systems are being presented, so the future of convenience, efficiency, and security. Military development is a major focus, and so is healthcare. There are some things that are happening in healthcare. We may actually have a cure for cancer. So they're looking at it. The drive for cures and many other details in the human body. However, there are many other reasons to be concerned about this technological explosion that is currently leading to a huge change in our society. It's the reason every aspect must be examined, considered, questioned, and controlled, because AI isn't a harmless upgrade, but can be the foundational tool for building a government system that will control every aspect of our lives. For many years, I've been warning of the drive toward global governance that will erase any individual thoughts, desires, or personal goals that you may have in your life, how you want to live, how you want to progress. It started with the UN's plan they called Agenda 21. It was sold as a, quote, comprehensive blueprint for the reorganization of human society. Can it be any clearer? That's what they said it was. A few years later, the UN updated to Agenda 2030, claiming that this one contained 17 specific goals, details to achieve that reorganization. And those details are now being imposed in local government. You can go into websites of local communities and you will see them talking about SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. That's Agenda 2030. Next came more details for changing our entire economic system, including transportation, energy, and community development plans under the title of the Green New Deal. Here was the full master plan for the reorganization of human society. The main targets are free enterprise, private property, and personal choice. Those are the three pillars of freedom. If we don't have those, we don't have freedom. And how is all that, being done right here now? Public-private partnerships between government and major corporations are working to make new rules to decide what products, food, transportation, homes, and even clothing lines are available for you to buy. The Great Reset author, World Economic Forum head Klaus Schwab, explained it all very carefully when he said, eventually, only a few corporations will survive. And then he explained, you will own nothing and be happy. What these corporations are doing with partnerships with the government is they're helping create legislation to put their competition out of business. That's what Klaus Schwab means when he says only a few will survive. And they will then work in partnership with this global agenda to dictate what products are left for you to buy, that they decide you need. Now, you know what they meant. And here's why it will be so. The World Economic Forum's Great Reset is total annihilation of the status quo, that was our founders' vision of freedom, the status quo. In truth, artificial intelligence provides these global forces with the main ingredients necessary to achieve that control, the creation of a total surveillance society. Hitler, Stalin, and Lenin would have gone crazy over this. This is what they really needed to completely control the world. That's what they wanted. Here's some examples how it's operating. Digital ID systems implemented through the government corporations will have the unprecedented power to track, monitor, and control every aspect of your life, from your money and healthcare to your social connections. Bill Gates, one of the most powerful proponents behind AI, has threatened that, quote, digital ID must be accepted by U.S. citizens by 2028. Otherwise, they risk exclusion from society. See, these guys don't hide what they're talking about, what they want to do. They're very clear about it. Trouble is, a lot of us just aren't reading it. Or they think it's too crazy to even believe. That's probably the other thing. All that means controlling where you can travel. They will monitor who you associate with, why you spend your money, and what you spend your money on, and what you believe in politically. The Communist Chinese have used this whole forum to completely control their millions and millions of people using that very thing. Do you know that development, it's in the works right now to create threads in your clothes that will help conduct digital ID? You believe that? In addition, they are working to create dental floss that will be used to insert vaccines via the tissue between your teeth and gums. And this is what the scientists say about this, all that convenience thing, you know. It would be easier to administer, and it addresses those concerns people have of getting vaccinated with needles. We're just wonderful to the people. Public safety is another promise offered from the AI revolution. You know, we now have cameras almost everywhere catching us, if we speed. I've gotten a couple of those in the mail. Recording everything. They didn't catch the chicken, though. They're recording everything that happens on the streets, recording who enters the stores, monitoring our neighbors. With AI technology, those cameras are going to be much more detailed surveillance. According to the AI promotional materials, traditional cameras simply record footage. But AI-enhanced cameras can analyze video much more clearly to detail facial recognition, detect unusual behaviors, and even identify potential threats before they happen. That's make sure that you're safe, you know. That means these cameras will be everywhere, recording everyone you interact with, in everything you do, everything you think, everything you say. You already get your social media posts and all that. And how many of you have been talking in the living room about this particular issue and all of a sudden get an ad on your phone or even your television all of a sudden comes up? You know? Downright freaky. And nothing will be private. But how about the voting system? How will AI affect that? According to AI promotional material, for some reason, I got on a list. Every single day, I get an email that says, its title is AI, what is it? You know, and what they try to do with all this is they take all the stuff that people were saying about it, and if it's negative, then they'll try to create, correct that. You know, the crazy conspiracy theorists, they try to, but I get this every day. This is one of the things they had an issue of how it will affect our voting system. And it said this, quote, this app could provide information about candidates and issues, ensuring that every voter feels informed and empowered. Additionally, AI could offer solutions like remote voting options, making it easier for individuals who cannot reach the polling places. I'm wondering how for 250 years people got to the polls, but all of a sudden it's impossible. But what, they're saying that this will inform you about the issues or about the candidates. Based on what? As I said earlier, human beings write these things. And, they'll put out, oh, this is just fact. Maybe they write something about a candidate that absolutely is untrue. AI provides an official fact, it provides as official fact the ideas of its creator, as I said, concerning the issues and the candidates. This is where the human developer provides his own agenda, and who's in charge of that, who's looking into it. Second, we have already experienced the destruction of the voting system by machines and mail-in ballots. Are they proposing, this is what I got from that quote, are they proposing that we should all now be able to vote on our home computer? Well, there's convenience for you. Yeah. Well, that'll work. How did we ever get to the polls? It's just all these years. Now, we'll get serious about the real threat. In your bank. The move is on to replace cash with digital currency. Your account can be closed at any time and the money confiscated because in reality, there is no money. There's no wealth. It's just pretend wealth, controlled at the whim of government bureaucrats. Do you fully understand what no cash means and how you will be personally affected? A cashless society means fully digital. Cash doesn't exist. Working under government regulations, banks will have full control of every single dollar in your accounts. Every transaction will be recorded. You will control nothing. Every action you take in your account can be blocked, as I said, by a non-elected government bureaucrat. If they have any question about a transaction, if some bureaucrat sitting there going, what do they do with that money there? What are they doing with that? He will be able to freeze your accounts for your own good, of course. And let's not forget, if the electric grid goes down, you will have no money, period. If it goes, there have been times when it's gone down for as much as a week in some places. Try to go to the grocery now and buy food that you need and so forth. Oh, machine doesn't work anymore. Take cash? Nope, don't have cash. That's what we're faced with. The excuse that they use for enforcing the cashless society is there's a continuing drop in the value of cash, leading to huge expense to produce more our coins and print our dollar bills. The government just stopped producing pennies. What's next? The real solution must be to return our dollar to the gold standard. Originally, paper dollars weren't money. They were a certificate that indicated the value of the gold that was behind it. That's what gave it value. Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard, and from that day forward, the value of the paper dollar has been exposed. They now lose value on a daily basis, propped up only by government lies. Perhaps you've heard the old joke that only government can take a valuable commodity like paper and slap ink on both sides of it and render it worthless. That is exactly the dollar today. The government's answer now is to move all our wealth into a worthless computer where nothing is there to represent financial value. In that system, there will be no free market, no personal wealth, no private property that holds any kind of value. Our whole nation will become the tyrannical copy of today's New York City under its new communist mayor. And that's the goal. And here is a vital detail. As farmland continues to disappear under wind and solar projects, carbon capture pipelines, and into the hands of China, food shortages will become a major threat. the government will be forced to declare an emergency to deal with it. That means government will decide what will be necessary to feed the masses. That will be done in conjunction with the growing move to the public-private partnerships, with the surviving corporations left to supply all of our needs. They've already decided our energy needs, transportation, and housing choices. You've seen this. What will they decide for our dinner tables? Remember, we've recently been told that someday soon we all need to eat bugs. Every single person I've ever talked to about that said, absolutely not. There is no way I'm eating bugs. Oh? But what if the government declares a food emergency and bugs are all you will be able to purchase with your controlled, cashless, digital bank account? Let me add one more layer to the control. Your source of money. How do you earn? Many reports have shown that the massive move to control us with AI will affect and even eliminate a lot of jobs that people currently have. What is the plan for those who become jobless? Here again, in their own words, this was one of those reports that I get. Quote, as AI systems become more advanced, they will start to infiltrate various sectors, beginning with white-collar jobs and eventually extending to blue-collar industries. This shift could lead to a situation where businesses simply don't need human employees to maintain and increase profits. One widely discussed solution to the potential job displacement caused by AI is universal basic income. This concept, I'm still quoting, this concept involves providing all citizens with a regular, unconditional sum of money to ensure they can meet their basic needs regardless of their employment status. The primary means of earning a living is no longer necessary for many. This is what they have planned for your future. And the money that they hand out to you, for they decide for your needs. Now they're deciding what your needs will be. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a drive for slavery. You will have no control over your life. There will be no need, no incentive to create new ideas and products, empty shelves, empty malls, empty plates, and empty pockets. There will be no freedom of choice, no hopes, no dreams for your life. In short, the cashless society of AI is the greatest threat to human society ever conceived. Well, that's a very quick rundown of the concerns and potential of the threats to our free society through artificial intelligence. Now, let's turn to the major side effect needed to make this all happen: data centers. It's interesting to note that Oracle recently sent an email to 30,000 employees telling them they no longer have jobs. The excuse is that this will provide the savings in payroll and supply the company with $8 to $10 billion to be used on data centers. We are witnessing an explosion of AI data centers being built across the nation. Virginia leads with more than 650, with many more in the planning stages. Texas is second with 413, California with 321. Ohio so far has 200, mostly located where were once really nice rural farming areas. The very culture of these communities is being destroyed. Anybody ever travel to New Albany or Johnstown or Alexandria to go to these towns and what they're like now? I remember when I was young, I had friends there. I traveled there, did lots of things there, and these were beautiful rural communities. They are now practically buried in these monstrous buildings. Well, why? The rush to suddenly cover the nation with more than 5,300 of these compounds as they are planning now. The reason is obvious. Their purpose The equipment in these massive data centers is to collect and store every single piece of information that makes up human society. That includes, as I said earlier, every individual's biometrics and their every daily action, on time, or your online social media postings, to every bank account and transaction, to every detail of history, science, and government and environment and military development worldwide, all parked in the technical cloud. That's what the data centers are, and that's why they need so many of them. Most data centers require at least 10 acres of land for their massive buildings. These facilities also use a massive amount of water. I'm going to say massive a lot. It's a massive thing to say. They need massive amounts of water for cooling the required computer equipment. In addition, according to the data center promoters, quote, the AI systems analyze the AI systems analyze massive data sets to learn and improve over time. I mean, keep increasing the data. This requires processors which consume massive amounts of energy. They admit it. End quote. These facts are the reason why the data centers are creating such a threat to local communities. Data centers drain rural resources of water and electricity. The massive water usage comes as they rely on evaporative cooling systems to keep the computer systems from overheating. This requires millions of gallons of water daily, which can deplete local aquifers and as they compete with agriculture and residential needs, you getting a drink of water. The same sort of massive use is truly concerning the energy that the usage that they have. The data centers strain local electrical grids and increase the cost for residents. The rapid expansion of AI data centers has caused electricity demand to rise sharply, with projections indicating usage could nearly triple by 2030. A prime example of the massive electrical usage is dramatically demonstrated in a planned Amazon $11 billion data center set for Indiana, which will use the power equivalent that is used by 1 million homes. How long can power grids survive with this massive growth? Even when such threats to the local water and power sources, the data centers have been growing as the promoters are promising huge benefits for the financial growth of the community. Your local elected representatives are hearing incredible stories of what this is going to bring in, all kinds of new employees. You're going to have more money to put in parks and gardens and take care of everybody and all your needs. And they, now after all, you look at how large these are. They pitched at all the number of people that are going to work there. However, the facts don't match the promotion. In reality, the data centers provide very few jobs. Yes, the building process will provide several hundred temporary jobs for the building contractors, but those will be gone once the project's complete. As for the data center operation itself, experience has shown even the largest facilities employs fewer than 150 permanent workers. And I just got this report the other day. Virginia data centers are credited with 1 permanent job for every 54 million invested. The energy use issue is causing a huge debate concerning how local residents can supply their own energy. Their needs with the grid is being sucked dry by these data centers. Over the past several years, the debate has been raging over forcing the elimination of oil and gas. You've been seeing this. This is what the radical environmental movement has been pushing for that everything will become wind and solar, and we won't have oil and gas. And, this is where they're going with it. Wind and solar are a complete joke. If they had that, the only source of we have, first of all, every piece of farmland would be covered with solar panels, or windmills would be killing everything that flies, and they'd be supplying about 4% of the energy that we need. 4%. Sometimes it gets as high as 10, So now we have these same people who've been pushing these kind of things are now pushing. We're using more and more and more energy than we've ever used before. So, well, it's sold, as this positive environmental alternative. The power grid is just dying. If the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine, wind and solar provide nothing. Wind and solar won't provide it. Goldman Sachs projects that data centers' electricity demand could rise by 165% by 2030. This danger of shortage has caused a new focus on nuclear energy. Indeed, nuclear power, could serve as a sound response to the shortage. However, there is a major problem in counting for this as a solution: government policy. The current government party line is that nuclear power is dangerous because these people can't figure out the difference between nuclear power and nuclear bombs. They don't understand the difference of that. And many politicians are hesitant to promote the idea, but the data centers are being built at a breakneck speed. And now the crisis is growing nationwide. And even if the policymakers decide to move forward with nuclear power, it will take time to build those plants. They aren't built overnight. Meanwhile, data centers taking more and more and more. Another interesting issue is also arising over the building of the data centers and their massive land use. Where is the environmental movement on this? For 50 years, the powerful green movement has advocated the need for preservation of open space. They kept telling us, they kept forcing governments to pass legislation to stop us from building, making the city grow out and give you more land that way and so forth. Oh no, we need that land. It's got to be open space for the wild animals to have a place to run, and it helps the air and all of that. That's what we've been told for 50 years. So I ask now, as these, they're demanding the smart growth and the 15-minute cities and the smaller cattle herds and the grazing in the name of water protection, climate change, been the center of everything they've done. Where is the Sierra Club now in the fight over the massive data centers? The hypocrisy and their lack of action is showing as the open space is destroyed while thousands of acres are being put under roof. That is what is happening to all that open space that they forced us to have, and we couldn't build our homes there and so forth. No, we can't have that. Now it's all under roof. 1,000 acres of data centers. So, meanwhile, as we face a huge energy shortage, the Greens continue to push wind and solar projects. And you've seen these photographs of the solar panels that go on for as far as the eye can see, miles and miles and miles. If they transferred everything to that, there would be no open space. Along with the data centers taking it up, there'd be no open space anywhere. They talk about a food shortage. There it goes. Here come the bugs. Oh, and there's one more environmental detail concerning the data centers that the Greens haven't yet acknowledged, but science has revealed. AI data centers can cause the warming of their surrounding area by as much as 9.1 degrees Celsius. Yet, no panic from Greta Thunberg. How dare you? There it is. But now we're not done yet with the possible data centers' destruction of the environment. One more emerging solution to the energy and cooling issue now being offered is the idea of space-based data centers. They are called orbital data centers and are actually satellites or orbital stations equipped with servers to store and process data in orbit rather than on Earth. The idea is to use the vacuum of space for radiating cooling and scale computer resources without terrestrial restrictions, here on Earth. You've got to ask this question. Will this result in launching hundreds or thousands of such orbital stations around the Earth's atmosphere? If so, how will they interact with the thousands of satellites that are already orbiting the planet? Is there any danger of them running into each other? And I've got one major question here. How big will these orbital data centers be? Will they be anything near the size of the current ones on Earth? Could this mean that Bill Gates will finally achieve his goal of blocking out the sun to stop climate change as the data centers fill the sky? We are truly living in the twilight zone. These are the many reasons why AI and its related data centers must be stopped or seriously controlled if individual freedom, free enterprise, and private property rights are to survive. Ohio is one of the main hotbeds in the fight. Did you know that the Ohio data centers forces are led by the state's richest man, billionaire Leslie Wexner? Wexner has created a model for the takeover of local governments through public-private partnerships, right out of the original Agenda 21 strategy. The plan is using billions of Ohio taxpayer money to finance a massive welfare system for corporations. Some of the biggest beneficiaries are Wexner's company called New Albany Company, Amazon, and Google. According to a report by researcher Whitney Webb, in the late 1980s, Wexner began building on farmland in New Albany, up by Columbus. He got zoning laws changed so he could build his power structure. He put his New Albany company in a public-private government partnership with the local government of the city of New Albany. He later managed to get more laws changed so it could be a de facto private government that's independent from Ohio regulations, but can tax citizens and issue bonds. Wexner controls it all in a way the local government cannot. His New Albany company is now a major driver in attracting data centers in other areas of Ohio. Over 120 of those are in the New Albany area, as I talked about earlier. New Albany, Alexandria, Johnstown, there, once quiet rural communities. Wexner benefits from each sale of every ounce of property. But now, his system is being adopted by others in small rural communities and by venture capitalists. They're moving to buy politicians and use them to privatize aspects of Ohio's regional and state governments. And that's what you are up against as you work to try to stand up against this. You need to know that. You need to know how to deal with that. The good news is that some local activists are succeeding in building opposition around the state as well as other parts of the nation. I want to tell you, this is my 59th year of political activism, and I worked on a lot of issues, and I have never seen an operation like this, an issue that is gaining so much attention and gaining activists who are coming together and starting to win. As I've been trying to write an article based on what I'm telling you tonight for a magazine, I have to keep updating it because here's another new attack. Here's another new, so people have had some success. And I'm thrilled with this. I am seeing people take action and standing up for it at the local level. And that is where it has to be fought. St. Albans Township, located real close to New Albany, has stood up and banned data centers in its area. The trustees said they were carrying out the will of the people to preserve the rural character of the surrounding farmland. That's an inspiration that you must build on. 3 other townships around the Columbus, New Albany area have now taken action to at least temporarily halt the building of data centers. Meanwhile, right here in Southern Ohio, there are hardworking activists who have taken up the fight to get the issue on the ballot. They have until July to collect around 413,000 signatures to make the November ballot. But if they could succeed in that, that would become a powerful first in the national vote to set the battle lines. I've gotten reports in the last couple of days. Wisconsin is moving to pass legislation to ban data centers. And Maine may be the first to do that, working on it. I've never seen a movement go like this our way. That's the exciting part about it. In Virginia, local residents of Prince William County has been fighting to stop the building of the world's largest data center complex to be put right on the edge of the historic Bull Run battlefield. They were going to put it right there. There's already over 120 data centers in that area close by. This was the biggest in the world. And there are about a half a dozen citizen activist groups that came together to enter into that fight, and they were joined by the American Battlefield Trust, taking the fight to the Virginia Court of Appeals. The last week, it worked, and the Virginia Court of Appeals voted to rule to stop the data center complex. Massive. The opposition is growing around the nation. Here are just a few of the new warriors to join the battle. In Culpeper, Virginia, local residents there have organized to create the Coalition to Save Culpeper and to protect the town's rural character. In Arizona, grassroots activists have created the No Desert Data Center Coalition. Imagine them trying to get enough water to run it in the desert. They're starting to win some battles. There's a media thing has been called Media Justice has been started. It's launched to spread the news that the people say no, and it's restricting data centers in the South. It's working on that, getting that information out to the citizens. That's what has to be done. The NAACP has launched the Stop Dirty Data Centers campaign, focusing on the impact of data centers on Black communities. And even the environmentalists are finally starting to take some action. There's an organization called the Food and Water Watch, calling for a full moratorium on the approval of and construction of new large-scale data centers. The opportunity is growing to win this fight at the local level. There are several vital steps local residents must take to organize effectively. I call it building a freedom pod in your community. Yeah, you got to focus on Congress. Yeah, you've got to focus on the state legislature and your city councils, but you also have to organize effectively right there in the local community. The main barrier local activists are meeting today are ignorant local officials who don't understand the issues or its threat to the community. They are instead influenced by the corporations through the promises of money and community growth from the data centers. The first step for you to move forward, do your research. You can't fight ignorance. You've got to understand who and what you're up against and when. Carefully follow what actions are being brought before your local city or county government. When you see a reference to a proposed data center, then you must prepare immediately to join into that fight. You must distribute the known details, everything I've told you tonight, and we'll have this available. Getting it in there, it's got to get into the hands of your local elected officials. They've got to see this. They've got to have this presented to them. Chances are strong that your local elected officials do not know any of this information. Prepare it for them. Second, more than likely, the promoters of this project will decide to hold a public meeting to inform the citizens and probably claim that they are working to counter the false claims by conspiracy theorists. They mean you. I always take that with a moment of pride myself. Come get me. Attend that meeting in force and have specific questions about water and electricity used for the project. How many jobs will it provide? Challenge them. Be prepared for them to say that everything is wonderful, and be prepared to show them the facts and prove otherwise. Most importantly, you must prepare a system of communication with the residents of the entire community. This is my point when I'm saying, yeah, you've got to deal with the elected officials, but you can't just have that be all you do. We always have here you have a good group of about 30 people, and if you all got together and you're talking about the issues and you know them and you know what you're going to do and everything, and then you go to the city council and you wonder why you get shut down. It's because your elected officials are getting the pressure from these corporations and non-governmental organizations, and hardly any of our people are there. They're not hearing, they're not feeling anything for their actions. It's vital that you organize a communications system to get that information out to every single resident in the community. A lot of people are putting flyers together with the details on it, maybe later calling a public meeting, but getting that information to them so that they are learning it themselves. And if you can get them to start writing emails or something to their elected officials, that'll have a big impact on it. It's really drying. So these are things that I've been working on for the last several years. The ignorance of our local officials is really pathetic. It's not that they're bad people, they just don't know. Some are bad people. You are up against powerful forces. I understand the pro-data center forces, their greatest fear as they're doing this, and I've seen it not just with the data center issue, but with others, is they fear a well-organized citizen organization in a community because they know you can win. They know that. They are surprised by how much they do accomplish, to be honest with you. So they're afraid for you to do that. But the number one thing, do not wait for some local superhero to take over and do it for you. That is not going to happen. And right now, I've been warning about this for the last couple of years. We are seeing across the country an awful lot of our people who they're taking one of two positions. They're saying, one is, well, Donald Trump's solving everything. I don't have to do anything anymore. The other side says, well, these forces are too powerful. We can't do anything. It doesn't do any good for us to fight. Well, there's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And we have to understand, I don't care how good, Donald Trump is or whatever when he does, he can't know everything and he can't do everything. Government is massive. He needs you to build from the bottom up, meet him at the top, and then you can you can cover everything. This is what has to be done. If they start feeling it from you, then they will, the local elected officials. Well, here's what winning looks like. The next time an NGO organization brings in the plan, we got the whole plan right here for you as a city councilman. Put it right here in front of you. We got the money for you too. We got the grant money. Put it all right here. Don't have to do anything. Winning is when your local elected official has felt enough pressure from the people. He says, are you nuts? Do you know what my people will do to me if I do this? That's what we have to accomplish. And we don't do it. One reason why we're not there? Those of us who believe in limited government believe that way because we don't like government. And the last thing we want to do is go to a city council meeting. Oh, I got a family to raise. I've got a job to do. I don't want to do that. And they don't feel it from us. And now you're seeing what's happening. It's your life. It's your freedoms. What are you going to do about it? So, your local and state elected representatives are being pounded on by these pro-AI forces to fall in line. And as I said, they must feel pressure from you. They must fear you from their political futures, that they go against you. As my good friend Rocky Balboa said, that's how winning is done. And that's how we have to do it. Uncontrolled AI and its side effects may be the greatest threat to freedom that any generation of Americans have ever faced. This is your time to lead the fight to stop it and save freedom. You now have the basic facts. Control the building of the data centers, and you will control the threat of the AI. If we can stop them building them, they can't impose all of those policies they want to do. Stand firm and don't stop until we win. Thank you. So,
Do we have any questions? We have one here.
Hi. One of the things that local elected officials are doing in Ohio, or that the companies that want the data centers are doing, is they're coming into the local jurisdiction and having all the local elected officials sign NDAs and working behind the scenes. And so there's a local jurisdiction in Ohio now that Amazon essentially has been working with for the last year and a half, got the zoning code changed, got the zoning for the property changed before the citizens even knew that there was a possibility of a data center. So essentially, the road had already been paved before there was a single word that the citizens knew about. Have you dealt with that? And have you figured out a way to stop this from happening? I mean, you can certainly afterwards and sue.
But this is why I say
like that. But
the first thing that you have to do is research, and the policies are there, and they have every community has its own website. And it has what their plans are, what they're going to do. And you can find out who the private forces are behind it as well. Another thing you can do is take 3 people, volunteer to go to every single public meeting and just sit and listen. You will be amazed what you learn. You'll see who they're interacting with and so forth. But you've got to have people on the ground who are watching for those kind of things. And yes, these new policies do show up and catch us by surprise because we never heard of it before. But once you do learn about it, then that's what we need to do.
yeah, this jurisdiction, I mean, it was just, we're trying, I mean, there's a lawsuit, we're trying to undo it, but I would say that you need to start even before that and go to local jurisdictions and do moratoriums or proactively have your zoning folks
Absolutely. Yeah.
do conditional zoning or a process that you have to go through. Because what the city councils are doing is they're going into executive sessions and discussing it there. So you may go to the meeting and you're never going to hear about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, one of the main things I talked about putting those flyers out and getting that information out to your neighbors and so forth. Well, one of the main things to do in that, if you've got a specific elected official who's leading something like that, or maybe it's 2 or 3 or whatever, if you've got some quotes that maybe they said people are stupid, they're going to listen to this, anything like that, put it in the flyer with their picture. Get it out there. That they're going to do you a big favor at that point. They're going to respond. And now you've got a public debate. But getting that information out there, you've got to kill their reputation. I was in Colorado a couple of years ago, and I was having dinner with some folks before we went in to speak. And they were telling me about how a city councilwoman there, for this particular community, the main income for that community was gas and oil. And she had passed something in the city council that was affecting their money. The oil companies were leaving. And they showed me this chart of how the money was going down because of this. I told them, I said, put her picture on it. It's her chart. This is what we have to do. Make them responsible for their own actions. And when you find that they're doing these things behind the scenes, get it out there. Tell them and tell the people what they're doing. And that make them afraid to do that. Is really what it comes down to.
Rebecca, are you able to tell us what jurisdiction that is?
I can't right now. The one I was talking about. I know there's one in Clinton County where there's an active lawsuit right now that.
And are you saying it's the zoning officials that are signing the NDAs or the councils?
So Kurt Hartman, our office has a action right now in Clinton County against the county commissioners who all signed NDAs, and so that's public record. And they signed on behalf of the county, even though there was never a vote to do so. The local jurisdiction that I shouldn't tell you right now what it is literally every city council member, all the zoning officials, the city manager, the Port Authority, all signed NDAs.
So really you could request a public record document on any NDAs signed by your local council or commission.
Yeah. I just think you have to start before you
Yeah.
hear anything about the data center.
Yeah. Thank you.
I agree. By the way, is Theodora here? Is she here? There's a lady who I got an email on that can provide virtual presentations on a lot of this stuff to help teach you to do things. We're going to try to hook up and help people get that kind of training and so forth. So I thought she was here. I was going to have her talk about it. Huh? Okay. I thought she was going to be here. Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Here's a question right here.
Yeah.
So down in Adams County, south of here, there is a big brouhaha going on over very thing. And one of the things that has to happen before they start the wheels in motion, they have to identify and acquire property for these massive data centers. And one of the things to do is to watch. You can go in the planning and development and in the real estate and watch which properties have changed hands in massive acreage and pretty much identify where they're going to try it. And once they can't really do anything until they locate the land to put it on, then they get all the other infrastructure going along with it.
Yeah. The other thing that goes along with that is put yourself in the shoes of the farmers, and they are under siege from whether it's wind and solar and carbon capture pipelines or data centers to give up their land. They're offered sometimes massive amounts of money to do this, and they think, well, I've got to do that. But I never met a farmer yet who didn't want to be a farmer, but they do it and they think, well, there's nothing I can do. We have got to give them support and help protect them as well, and let them know they've got they should not sell their land or take the money they're offering and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of that, there's a woman she's in her 80s in Kentucky who said no.
Yeah.
You heard about that one. And then also, I think there's another one.
There's a huge amount of money too.
Oh,
He said, yeah.
oh my goodness. And maybe it was Pennsylvania. I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But there are people that are doing that, saying no. And I just wondered with a lot of you know that there is a Facebook group called Coalition Against Data Centers in South Ohio. And they're getting big. I mean, they've got more stuff. I put this class coming up here on it, but I don't know whether anybody saw it. Maybe not. But anyway, there's lots of activity on that. So they're talking about the petition and so on to do that.
That's why I'm telling you, I am shocked by how this is rising up. It's so fast and people are getting it. And I mean, we are talking about absolutely destroying our entire society under all of this stuff. And also, we'll give you some money and that kind of thing. It's just insanity.
Yes. Okay. I'm a firm believer in showing up at in my case, township meetings and letting them know that I'm watching. Very seldom do I get up and speak, but remember, whatever level you're talking about, they are there to do the will of the people and to protect the people and the businesses that are already there. They need to protect those first. And if they're not listening to people, tell them so.
Yeah,
Tell them they need to listen.
That's exactly how you can put out in whatever you put out to represent or to communicate with the people. That very thing you just said, that challenge them on that. Who do you represent? These private corporations coming in, putting a bunch of money in your pocket, or the people who elected you, the people who are counting on you to protect their liberties. We've got to make that challenge. And that's exactly. That's what we have to do.
Many years ago, that Snowden exposed the top secret stuff about the data centers they're building out west that the government was doing. How did that shift to all this? Sounds like private enterprise.
Well, they go to these public-private partnerships, so it's government and corporations, and these corporations see an opportunity not only to make more money for themselves, but also to help put their competition out of business. And that's how they're pushing it. And they come in and they're going to talk to you and talk. Oh, we're just here to help you. We're going to make the world just so much better, and all this kind of stuff. And that's what they do. And we've been talking about a global agenda, but that's not how they sell it. They sell it a little piece at a time, right here. And this is just local. This is just local. How many times have I had city councilmen tell me this is just local? And they, now you've got non-elected regional councils that are bringing. They're the ones that bring in a lot of this government money. You get grants from HUD and Department of Energy and the EPA and so forth. These organizations, these non-government organizations, surround your elected officials. They help write those grants, so they know exactly what's in there. And you get a grant. For example, my hometown's Newark, Ohio, and they had a situation where there's a square in the center of town, and that's where we always cruised at high school, and at the Saturday nights, that's where we were, and around the courthouse. But there was infrastructure under it. It was over 100 years old. they needed to replace it. I mean, that's a legitimate job of government. They needed pipes and they needed wires and things like that. So they got a grant from the EPA to do this. The grant said, oh yeah, we'll take care of that for you. But also, to protect the environment, you have to put a roundabout on every corner of the square and get rid of the traffic lights. And I had this county commissioner there tell me that he talked to the guy in charge of this who said that the roundabouts were cheaper than the traffic lights. Excuse me? It's a lamp. But they now have these roundabouts all around, and they've got traffic going in two directions, and my brain will not accept that. I cruise there on Saturday night, but this is how they do it. And once you get the grant, oh yeah, we're going to do this, but you also got to do all this. And that's how they put it in place.
Question.
I just wanted to maybe just say something about the two candidates running for governor. Are we all aware of the fact that Vivek is very much involved with this whole thing with Lex Wexner and, Vance and all of them, Peter Thiel, who's one of the worst people possible. And this is on the Ohio Register. If you go to the Ohio Register, you can see this article about it, much about Whitney Webb and everything. And Whitney Webb was interviewed by Jimmy Dore.
That's where I got
And,
that.
It's really incredible.
I've got it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I just thought maybe if you know that Casey Putsch does not want them, he's going to fight against that. And he's running for governor. So just want you to know.
And I would say, I know a lot of people here, support Vivek and so forth. He needs to feel pressure from us. He needs to hear our objections to this. And, that's what we've got to do.
Question.
Back to the beginning of your speech, you said there's that goal of universal income and no private property and all that. Be their vision once. I hope they don't achieve it, but like they believe they're going to achieve it. What's their goal past that? Like if they're going submissive and everything.
Hey, are you watching what's happening in New York City? What's going on there? Klaus Schwab said in the Great Reset that you'll own nothing and be happy about it. I know that Japanese Airlines, I believe it's Japanese Airlines, advertises to its people who are flying that no need to pack a suitcase. When you get down there, you can rent clothes. Don't want to own any. This is a kind of insanity that little piece of here, little piece of there. Pretty soon you wake up and you got nothing. Private property is under attack in everything. You've got young people today who now are afraid to get married, to have children. They can't afford to buy a home. Private property, single-family homes are disappearing, and because they can't afford it. The other thing that's happening is there's a move in communities all over the country. Minneapolis is one of the worst. They are taking away the zoning protections for single-family neighborhoods. How many people have their own home in a single-family neighborhood? You picked that house because you liked it. You liked where it was. You've got room for your backyard. You've got room to the children to play. You've got your driveway. So it's your personal life that you create there, the way you decorate it and everything. The mayor of Minneapolis said, you're a racist. The reason that you want that zoning protection there is because you want to keep people out who you don't want to live next to. And they're doing this whole thing. You look at public housing and what a complete mess it is. The air conditioning doesn't work. The windows are broken. And there are gangs there and drug dealers and all this kind of stuff. Why? Because it's not private property and it's run by a government bureaucrat who gets his paycheck no matter what happens. People who own private property take pride in it. They are now advocating that you living there in that house, you've got 4 people living in your house, we could put 100 families there in that space with a high-rise apartment building, and people they could move out of those terrible public-private or public housing things. That's what they're arguing. That what's going to happen there is, they can, when you're in those apartment buildings, they can control your energy use because they put smart meters on it. They can control your transportation because there'll be no parking lots. They can control everything about your life. That's the goal. They're going to have look at China. That's how they live. Do you think anybody in China's got a single family home? No. This is what they have in mind for you. And little bit by little bit, that's how they do it.
Tom, can you give us an idea on what the energy increase rates are when these data centers come in for people?
Well, again, when you've got wind and solar that produce next to nothing anyway, but they're already finding where they have these rate increases. You've got a community where the data center comes in and is just sucking everything dry, and they have to then get the power from other grids and so forth to bring in, and they're charging for that. It's doubling to start with, and as I said, it's going to increase the usage by over 165% we go along. What idiot can't see the result of building a data center that is going to use the electrical equivalents of 1 million homes? How long can that last? But that's these tech guys are supposed to be the really geniuses of our world, really, really smart on all this stuff.
Okay, we've got a question back here.
Yeah.
Online.
We have 4 online questions. One is, are the citizens made aware when the data centers are being constructed legally? Do we get any notice or have any say in them?
I would say it's mixed at this point. It's some they do, some they don't. The one in Virginia along the battlefield, they knew about that one. And what happened was the county government illegally pushed it through. And that's why they won in the appeals court. But they usually, when they're already in the place, people don't know about it until they start building them. So
I don't know if you can answer this one, but someone asked, I don't understand how the data centers can consume that amount of water for cooling. Don't they operate under a closed loop system? I'm thinking car engine and refrigerator cooling.
Well, this is what's happening. How much equipment do they have in there, for one thing? That's what we don't even know. You see these great big huge buildings, nobody goes in them, sees what's in there. But they're using that energy. We're not saying, oh, this is going to happen. It's happening. So they have these systems that are using all that water.
Third question, governor candidate Vivek Ramaswamy is all in for data centers and turning Ohio into the next Silicon Valley. Besides not putting him in office, what else can we do?
Well, you have now, I've given you an idea of the information that you need to have and what's all involved in this. You got to get busy and get that information out. You've got to tell the people what's happening there. You've got to start questioning officials. And you support this? Why? What about this? What about that? Let the world know where they stand on things. That's their worst enemy when they're trying to hide something.
She followed up saying, what can we do to stop him from brainwashing Ohioans?
Well, what we have, as I've been describing here, the movement that is growing on the local level all over the state. Get that information out. Get them, challenge them. Come right out and name them and say, you said this, here's this information, and, get it out there and challenge them.
We have a question over here.
Well, I don't know if it's a question or more of a statement. I believe in God and I follow the Christian faith. And there's a prophecy that you will have to make a choice to join your soul to God or to a system that allows you to buy and sell. And it seems like the pieces of the technology that would limit your ability to buy and sell and force compliance and take the free will away that God has given you is coming quicker and quicker. And this is a big part of that system that needs to be in place for that to take place.
Yeah. Remember I said that there are two different kind of movements of people who aren't being active. And one saying, Trump's going to take care of everything. But the other one saying, they're too big. We can't do anything about it. That's when your free will is taken away from you. That's the result of that. And you're absolutely right.
Earlier, you mentioned, do your own research. Is there any, and you mentioned several negative or counter, negative stats in terms of power usage, water usage, those sort of things. Is there any sort of repository or central collection when you start to do this kind of research? Anybody that's working that kind of an angle of it? I know you said it's mainly a local issue, and you have to be vigilant and watchful for things happening.
I'm glad you asked that question, because just before I left Virginia, come out, I had a long conversation with some of my people, and the American Policy Center is going to now set up in our website, collecting all the data that we get in. We're going to work to make it so it's a central thing to do, and that's what we're going to do. It has to be done.
Here's a question right here.
I've often heard that we're talking about general intelligence, super intelligence. In general intelligence, do you need all data centers? And is there any way of controlling between general intelligence?
Well, when I look at what these people do, and how they put these crazy things together that are just make no sense whatsoever, that I can't think there's any super intelligence in. But I'm just joking. But I mean, there's information that is vital. That I think if you've watched, what's been happening with the whole Iranian thing, of how our military has been operating, you see some results of that, and it's and we haven't lost any a bunch of soldiers. That that's one of the goals of that and everything. I'm seeing in healthcare there are some good things that are happening there. I do believe that they are very close to coming out with some cures for some bad things. Fine, but there are other things that how this is used. Let me show you this. When you were in school, the teacher assigned you to do a report on a specific issue. Remember that? And they tell you to do that? There was a reason why they told you to do that. Because to do the report, you had to research the issue. That's how you learned. Today, now with AI, all these kids, and the kids are smart enough to know this, get in there, click, and it writes it for them. And again, what it writes has that bias in it of the person who created that program. And this is one way that this will absolutely destroy, under the name of education, is going to destroy our knowledge intelligence on it. And this is, and it's not just school like that happening. You've got in a lot of businesses, things like that. It's affecting people and how they operate. And the idea of personal choice, of thinking for yourself. Who's going to invent new things? Where are our inventors going to come from after that? Nobody has the incentive to do anything like that. So I just see it all as just destroying the human spirit, just sitting there and doing nothing. And if you go back to the Soviet Union, which, had a lot of this stuff in place, where you had the empty stores and everything, and people, because they weren't really allowed to do anything, didn't try. They just sat and tried to survive. And that's what we're going to fall into if this is done this way. And they're going to be telling you all along, oh, we've made your life easier, and not going to have to have a job anymore. Government's just going to put the money in your pocket, and you're not going to have a job, and you can just you're going to have a much happier life.
We have a comment here.
Yeah.
So one of the problems I see is that, I've heard about this, do your research, and talk to your local officials. I was involved in Home State Savings and Loan back in 1983 when it went belly up here in Cincinnati. And to me, if this movement fighting big business is going to be successful, what they've got is a lot of powerful people with a lot of money, and they've hired people to speak with a concerted voice. So when they go around the country and around the towns, they're saying the same story. So if all citizen groups like this, if we don't have and speak from a concerted voice using the same facts and figures, what's going to happen is they're going to say, well, that group over there said this, and that group over there says that. And 80% of the people are going to sit on their hands and not do anything. It's the other 20% that are going to front the movement. So if you're ever going to get to win the thing, we have to speak as a concerted voice using facts and figures to counter what they're going to say. Otherwise, we're just going to be a bunch of lunatic conspiracy theorists.
No, I totally agree with you. And there is that danger that you get some people who become real rabble rousers and they go off on something and then they'll use that. They'll get it on tape and use that over and over again. We're just the nutcases. We're just a bunch of conspiracy theorists. I've been called that for a long time. So they do that. But I agree with you.
Here's a question
altogether.
I don't know how many people have kids in school. University is what I'm thinking of, because my grandson's in university, and he tells me that when he writes a paper or so on, that they check it. They're able to somehow check it and make sure it's not AI. I don't know whether that's true or not. Maybe so, but he's also interning at a company, and the boss told him, your job's going to be gone in 5 years. I mean, that's a pretty hard thing to tell a kid, but
yeah,
it's true. I mean, it may be true. So.
What are they to do? What do all these people who now no longer are not needed for anything, they're all done by machines, what are they going to do? But what you're seeing is, as I said, young people don't even, there are a lot of young people who aren't even dating anymore. They're afraid. They don't want to have relationships, and they don't want to get married and have children, and they can't afford it. They can't afford homes, and they're just afraid. They've given up on life. And Ronald Reagan said, you only need one generation that goes completely this one way, and one generation that doesn't reproduce. There you go. And something a lot of people don't know. I all the 30 some years I've fought Agenda 21, I really haven't talked about this a lot, but it actually is a fact. I knew from the beginning, but I didn't talk about it, was that one of the main goals was to reduce the population. And they, by huge numbers. I didn't talk about it because it was hard enough to get people to understand the threat on their property. And I started telling them they want to wipe out 6 billion people. Who's going to believe me? So I didn't talk about it a lot. That is coming to the forefront of this whole fight. And getting down, the UN has said the Earth is only capable of supporting about 1 billion people. That was a compromise. The Sierra Club only wanted 250 million. They compromised with the UN and made 1 billion. And this is where we are.
We've got one last question in the back. Maybe two questions more. Hold on, just we've got one ahead of you.
Isn't this all, someone asks, isn't this all too little too late? I recently traveled from my new Virginia home to West Central Ohio and saw the huge data centers being erected south of Columbus. The chillers were countless and as big as multifamily housing buildings. How can you stop what is already there?
Well, first of all, we stop new ones. That's number one. We have to do that, and that is starting to happen. A lot of them are going into pause, and we can stop them that way. Eventually, these things, if we can stop the whole drive towards it, we might be able to change the entire policy. Maybe eventually you'll see some of these big companies maybe go out of business because they can't operate with that. And those buildings either get torn down or be used for something else. But the main thing right at the moment is stop the growth now. And that is happening. And, they have planned a whole lot more than what they have already. And if we are successful in doing that, it'll put a big kink in what they're trying to do.
Last question right here.
Nice job, Tom. Very nicely presented. I came to be informed. I'm leaving as a disciple. But which one of your books over here best describes who the enemy is? I've got Wexner, Amazon.
Yeah, I didn't have Wexner in there because I just learned that last week. But I'm working on them. I have several books there. The bigger one is our activist handbook. And I created this, as I said, I created kind of a process called building a freedom pod in your community. The idea is a permanent organization that is doing the research, it goes into detail of how to organize. It's got a lot of tools in there on that you can use to protect property rights, things like that. There's sample legislation and a lot of background information. You have that. The red book, Sustainable, the War on Free Enterprise, Private Property, and Individuals, that's what it is. This goes into the details, who the players are, what the policies are, where they came from, what their goals are. And I wrote that before there's the whole data center thing. But in both of these cases, the information fits anyway. I have a book there called Erase. That is a novel that I wrote, a society under all this stuff. I've got 5 heroes who are fighting it and how they do it. And to my utter shock, I had a guy who did reviews of books, and he sent me a note when I asked him if he'd review it. He said, "Tom, I think this is the most important political novel since 1984, Atlas Shrugged, and Michael Crichton's State of Fear." I just fell on the floor for that one. Couldn't believe it.
Tom, where do
so,
people
yeah.
sign up for your newsletter?
I've got a form over here to sign up for it. Our website is americanpolicy.org, and we've got 35 years of archives of articles on all this stuff, and we're getting a lot of new stuff going on. We've also created our own online podcast called Catching Fire News, and we got a whole lot of new shows on that you can find it. And we have a website, catchingfirenews.com.
Let's thank our speaker tonight. Thank you so much, Charles.
Appreciate you coming. Thank you. Thank you. Lucille.
Great to see you.